Well, today is the day that the House will be voting on their proposal for what they will do to raise the debt ceiling. Uh, let's have a look at who we're talking about here. For a little context, Kevin McCarthy will go down in history. Here we go. As the weakest Speaker of the House we've ever had, at least up until this point. He had to give away so much of his power as Speaker in order to get the votes from MAGA that he is, in fact, really just a MAGA puppet these days. Well, what's the result here? What does that mean practically? Because we've been talking about that since vote number, what, 5, 6? Well, let's have a look at this New York Times article. Actually, no, let's not the Badger Project either. Where do I want to go? So look at the CNN article. This is by Melanie Zanona, Kristen Wilson, Lauren Fox, Manu Raju, and Haley Talbot. All reporting for CNN. House Republicans are rallying around their proposal to raise the nation's borrowing limit and slash federal spending after leadership made a flurry of last-minute changes designed to win over key GOP holdouts. You know who those are. A major reversal after leadership insisted they would not alter the bill text. Following a closed-door conference meeting on Wednesday morning, where Speaker Kevin McCarthy walked members through some of the 11th hour changes, a number of conservatives and members representing ethanol-producing states who had initially signaled opposition began to fall in line. Okay, so what is that talking about? Well, we were discussing yesterday a Beau of the Fifth Column video that basically explained these Republicans truly do not know how government functions. And they literally needed it explained to them that a lot of the stuff that was in that bill was just in there to give them political cover and didn't actually have any meaning. It was meant to trick their voters into thinking they were making huge cuts, but it wouldn't actually cut the things that it said it would. Why? Because it put the onus on future Congresses to keep those cuts alive, so to speak. Well, there was objection to them from GOP, that MAGA folks, was my understanding, that just didn't understand it. So now they've been informed. Okay, GOP leaders are now expressing confidence. They're on track to pass the bill later Wednesday, even as a small handful of members are still threatening to vote against it. McCarthy can only afford to lose 4 votes. In an optimistic sign, GOP leaders appeared to have flipped one no vote to supporting the legislation, with Representative, Nancy Mace of South Carolina, who had said as early as Wednesday morning that she opposed the measure. I feel heard by the Speaker and ... I will support the debt ceiling vote today because he listened to my concern, Mace told reporters after meeting with McCarthy. Passing the measure, which is dead on arrival in the Democratic-led Senate, is primarily aimed at boosting McCarthy's negotiating stance with Democrats and was a key part of GOP leadership's pitch to skeptical members. If McCarthy can unite his conference and force a bill through the chamber, it would be a symbolic win for GOP leadership. The country approaches its default deadline as soon as this summer. So look, the broad overview is McCarthy had to get a proposal out there. He's still, to my knowledge, as of 5:22 Eastern, still hadn't done it. Let's have a look at the New York Times live updates. House press presses ahead on debt limit bill, courting a showdown. House Republicans are grasping for the votes to pass a bill aimed at capping government spending and rolling back President Biden's agenda in return for a 1-year increase in the country's debt limit. Let's have a look at where the votes are currently at. This is a motion to recommit. Interesting. Never mind. The House, let's see if I can get an update. From 7 minutes ago, House members are scattered all around. This is from Carl Hulse from the New York Times. House members are scattered all around the Capitol and office buildings, and it will take some time for them to all show up at the House chamber and vote. Not to mention, voting has gotten much slower in both House and Senate since COVID. All right, fair enough. Representative Nancy Mace, let's see. Nah. I was looking to see if they had any updates on what she got. They don't actually say it. 17 minutes ago. Debate is at an end. Now comes a motion by Democrats to send the legislation back to committee. It will fail, but there will be a recorded vote followed by a vote on the debt limit legislation. So, okay. In short, they don't have it. This is, just so you have a real understanding of how incompetent MAGA is, how incompetent Republican politicians are. This is about the most simple thing government can do. It's one of the most simple things, agreeing to pay our bills. It doesn't have to be a giant production. Democrats do it every year, and it doesn't make headlines. Why is that? Not really a matter of negotiation, whether or not the United States can pay its bills. We're capable of it. We spent the money already. By the way, Trump spent an insane amount of money. We have to fulfill our obligations. It would only occur to MAGA psychopaths and the GOP, I suppose, in general, to toy with the fate of the world. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, truly, the world economy would be in serious trouble if the U.S. was suddenly a bum nation, a country that didn't pay its bills. The whole world would suffer. It would only occur to Republican politicians to toy with that for political gain. And that's what they're hoping to do. Let's make sure this accomplishes the opposite. Let's make sure that this clown show, as it has become, continues to hurt the GOP because they've earned it. They're simply, at this point, they're simply stuck on the high dive. They talked a big game. They need to be either pushed off or allowed down the ladder. As in to say they need to either be voted out of office or they need to be allowed to quietly and politely resign because they don't know how to run a country. And at the end of the day, we need people doing these jobs at a minimum that understand what the job is, that understand how government works, that understands, the basics of running something. Republicans don't. They just don't. They're a bunch, as far as I've seen, they are a bunch of pampered kids. And they can't be trusted with anything serious. Make sure your community knows that. Republicans cannot be trusted with anything serious, least of all running the government. They're clowns. At best, they're clowns. Generally speaking, they're also criminals. Make sure your community is abundantly aware of that And for God's sake, and I mean this with the utmost sincerity, for the sake of the world having an easier next decade, to make your life truly, genuinely easier for years to come, you have an opportunity at the end of 2024 to get rid of all of these bums. Do so. It's got to be the end of the Republicans, because they are simply not. They're not a destructive habit that we can afford anymore.